Hey, it's Carrington with K&K's Indie Gaming Corner. And today is a real treat because I've got Kyle with me.
Hey, what's going on?
Not that much. How are you, Kyle?
Doing good. Excited for our discussion today with this fine fellow right here.
Absolutely. Today we have a special guest with us. For those that listen, we just recently reviewed a game called Silt, and we have the one and only Tom from Spiral Circus Games with us today. Tom, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah,
Good.
great.
Nice to meet you today.
Yeah, definitely.
So just gonna get right into it, Tom. Kyle and I both played Silt recently, and we absolutely love the game. And the art direction in particular is something that jumped out to us, and I have to ask. It reminded us almost of a Tim Burton film, like A Nightmare Before Christmas, like the art style. Was that like something that that you are a fan of? Is that something that you kind of drew inspiration from for Silt?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I drew inspiration directly for Silt from Tim Burton, but I have always been inspired by, and I have to get this right, early Tim Burton.
Yes.
There was a certain point that he went downhill, but like his 90s kind of golden era, like I said, like Nightmare Before Christmas, Sleepy Hollow, Vincent, his grad film is one of my favorites, and massive influence, definitely.
Okay.
It's just a shame he didn't continue in that vein.
I agree. That Gothic era that he had, he's done different things, but that Gothic era, like Edward Scissorhands and such, like absolutely like top notch Tim Burton stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
yeah.
I just had to ask, just because that art style was just so cool. I had to get it out.
Yeah, either Tim Burton or Edward Gorey. Like those are the two references that I hear a lot of, which is fine. Like both of those two. I don't know if you know Edward Gorey, but he kind of inspired Tim Burton in the first place.
Gotcha.
He's absolutely an amazing illustrator. If you haven't seen his work,
I'll have to definitely look into it then, because I'm not familiar with his work.
Sure.
Yeah,
he's a little bit less known. I mean, he's definitely less known than Tim Burton. But yeah, check him out.
Will do. Thank you. So you are also the co-founder of Spiral Circus itself. Could you talk about like how you got interested in wanting to make games and like kind of like the start of Spiral Circus? Let's talk about you, Tom. How did Spiral Circus get started?
Good question. Basically, I studied animation like many years ago, and I as part of my course, at the end of our course, we had to do a grad film, and I directed that grad film, and all of it was in my art style, and it was just like the best feeling to have like a team of people like drawing in my art style. And that was like 12-13 years ago now, and since then I couldn't really like find my fit in the animation industry. Like it didn't really like, my style didn't really work in like the commercial side of 2D animation. But I always really wanted to like have my characters animated again. So I just started like getting into fine art and illustration instead. For about 10 or 11 years, I was like solidly doing that. Like that was my living for a long time. But I always had that kind of itch about like wanting to see my characters move again. And really it was just like completely fortuitous that I ended up meeting my co-founder, Dom, at a party, and he was looking for, he was wanting to make games and really wanted to find someone to draw them, and I wanted to have my characters animated. So we literally kind of met at the perfect time, and we were like, do you want to like do something together? And it actually worked, because everyone has those conversations at parties, and everyone does that, and it's like like in the morning you go, that's never gonna happen, but the next day we went for a meeting in Bristol, and it really just started from there, because I actually showed him like a bunch of paintings that I was doing at the time completely randomly. They were like watercolor paintings of like big like ocean abysses, which were all kind of based on my my fear of the deep sea, and I showed him those, and one of them was called Silt, and that sparked the entire project. So yeah, that is literally how it all started.
It sounds like the stars aligned at the perfect time for you to, be
Yeah.
able to meet the party there, and then it take off from there.
Yeah.
And looking at Silt itself, it is such a unique art style. Obviously, coming from you as an artist, it when I saw your artwork on Instagram and looked at your website, it looks like, it looks like it's just you took your artwork and just made it from print and brought it to life. I guess if you look at other video games and other styles of video games, you can say, "Oh, that guy's has his touch in it," and yeah, you can see characteristics of his art. But it looks like your artwork has been stamped into the game itself with the characters, with especially like a lot of the statues in the game, and even the monsters in it. They've all got this eerie, dark look to it that is just beautiful in its own way. So
Thank you.
for you,
Very much.
for you, no, you're welcome. Thank you for the work that you've put into it. For you as an artist, what was a challenge for you, taking your artwork and making it into a game?
I think it was more a challenge for my co-founder, because he's the programmer and technical director. So he had to like basically work out a way of like keeping my art as my art, but making it feasible for the project to actually happen. So there was a lot of like things that I had to do to like facilitate that and make sure that like I wasn't making his life a nightmare, just to like keep my drawings as they are. And so we had a balance. There was a few things like, I don't know if you saw from my other past work, but like I like to crosshatch a lot, and crosshatching was like pretty much my thing for a long time. And that was the first thing that we tried to get into the game, in theory, as in just for me to draw like the backgrounds and everything like completely crosshatched. And it just didn't work like for this type of medium. Like to a point it did, but the kind of detail that I went into beforehand, it just didn't translate well for games. So we had to cut that down a little bit. And things like that are kind of what we had to cut back on, just to kind of keep it like, make sure the project actually happened.
Right.
Because, otherwise I would have cross-hatched an entire game for the next 10 years and might not ever come out. So there was definitely some compromise, but I'm really pleased with how the style ended up. In the end, it became like a kind of fusion of the two, of like the technical aspects and like what I previously did. It kind of married the two together, and I actually prefer it to my old work now. So it is how I paint, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah, I can for one say that I'm glad that it didn't take 10 years to make the game.
Yeah,
because I feel like it was the game that we needed this year, and yeah, it's a beautiful game.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Now, with Silt being Spiral Circus's first game, was there anything that you learned about during the making of Silt that you had no idea going into this? Like, oh, I didn't know this. It would take. Excuse me. It would be like this making a game, basically. What were some of the challenges being your first project?
Yeah, there was a lot of challenges. There was always bound to be a lot. I think with any project, you're definitely going to have things to overcome. I mean, for the kind of immediate one for me was working with other people, and more than that, like being a director of this project was a huge leap from being on my own from the best part of 15 years, like working on my own stuff. So that was a huge thing. We were very lucky to have a small team of people that was so receptive and talented that it didn't really require a huge amount from us to direct them and manage them. They all, I mean, there's only two of them mainly, but they seemed to be able to direct themselves very well, and they understood the concept very well. So we got very lucky with that. But yeah, that was a huge learning curve for me, translating my ideas really. I'd never really had to do that before. If anything, it's like I do my ideas for myself, and then if someone doesn't like it, then that's that. But
Mhm.
this, it was like I had to come up with the ideas, kind of pitch them to everyone else, see if those were feasible and doable within the time frame and all that, and then go from there. So there was a lot of like kind of steps to make it happen. So that was huge for me. The other thing was that I'm just obsessed with tentacles, and yeah, obviously it's an underwater games. For me, it was just like I want to do as many tentacles as possible, and that's not easy. From a programming and animation side of things, I never knew that that was like going to be a huge hurdle. Um, so that yeah, there was a point in the project where Dom, my co-founder, was like, "Yeah, no more tentacles. It's literally like 3 creature, no more." So yeah, that was a big learning curve. But yeah, I could go on. There's obviously a lot of them, a lot
Sure.
of things, but that was a few of them.
At what point did you realize that you wanted to do like an underwater base game with a scuba diver? Like, what was the inspiration behind that?
I mean, yeah, that came from my early paintings, the watercolor paintings I was doing. I think I for a while I had two main characters that I drew. One of them being Foxman, and the other being kind of a diving helmet kind of person, or like characters with diving helmets on. The other one is a gas mask character. Those are my kind of 3 stables that I've always drawn. And yeah, the diving helmet character kind of obviously came into this landscape perfectly and kind of fit in well. So that's why that happened. And I love the aesthetic. There wasn't really like much more decision that went into it apart from like a pure aesthetic choice. That I love that kind of look. I did almost like go the kind of old school, like walking on the kind of seabed type route, but that might be for like game 6 instead.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So Silt, one of the reasons, because we love games that have this kind of almost interpretation to it. Like it's up to the player to decide like a lot that's happening in the game, the story, because a lot of it, there's no like spoken dialogue or really much to it, which is what we really enjoy with other games such as like Inside or something like that. Is it possible that we could see more in this universe from you guys, or are you guys just kind of gonna move on into other projects after this?
I won't say specifics, but I would definitely say that the way that I draw everything is within a certain world.
Sure.
So I think you'll be seeing more.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's not gonna there's not gonna be a moment where I suddenly start drawing in color and doing like
rainbows.
Yeah. There's not a huge leap in that. That's for certain.
I think kind of following it. Oh, go ahead, Carrington.
I was gonna say real quick because now that you say that, what is it about that ink style and monochrome style that you like so much?
Question. I've always been a massive fan of comics. I've always like grown up with like 2000 AD, and I'm a huge like Junji Ito fan. If you know him, the Japanese horror like manga illustrator. Bunch of inspirations from the past really have like kept me like in that world. I just love the look of it, and I don't know. I think there was a point like about 10 years ago or a few years ago where I just stopped like doing anything happy and drawing anything with any form of color or anything, and it just became monochrome from that point onwards. So it's really just how I draw, and I just love working with lighting. Lighting is like one of my main passions with drawing, like creating strong like contrast in things. So, and I think that works best with monochrome. I personally think that.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely agree with that.
Yeah, kind of touching back on Carrington's previous question about seeing future characters in more games that you guys create. What is something that you've taken from Silt while taking the time to create it, and things that you've learned from that you're going to be able to apply to the next game that you create? As it being your first, your guys' first game that you've made.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's down to process. I think like, both of us didn't have experience. Dom was a scientist, I was a fine artist. It really was such a huge learning curve that we obviously had to work out like a lot of these processes from scratch. So next time we'll be going into that with our prior knowledge. So I think it will be a lot quicker to apply that, which is good. So I think in a sense we'll end up being able to push our ideas further because of that. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, never-ending list. Like, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I mean, games are hard. Who knew?
Especially with just, the two of you backing Spiral Circus, and I can't imagine the weight that was on your shoulders creating this project and actually seeing it come through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of credit has to go to Dom for that, because he was the kind of driving force behind like getting a lot of this done in time, and having it actually technically work. And he was kind of the end of the funnel, like as I was the start of the funnel. I gave him like all these crazy ideas, and then just like prayed that they worked. And so a lot of it, a lot of credit has to go to him for like getting it all, like getting a game done, really. There's an artist in the final process of making a game doesn't really have a huge amount of say. So there was a point where it just had to be like, I had to just hold my hands up and be like,
just
good luck. Like,
yeah,
hope it goes well. Which was a weird feeling. I am very hands-on with these things. So, but yeah, so that was another learning curve, really.
Yeah.
So another question that I feel like I have to ask as well, seeing your project going from your artwork to now players can actually play, what's it like seeing the reception? Because I've seen nothing but great things about Silt, either from indie publications or even bigger publications like Game Informer and such. What's it like to have such high praise for your first project?
Overwhelming. Like, it's been incredible for us I've never had this. None of us have ever had this before. So it's very, 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 very weird to have like this level of response. Like, once launch happened, we knew that we were going to get a lot of reviews in, but we just got flooded with them on the first day. And it's a very strange feeling reading like, hundreds of different opinions about what you've been spending your time on for the past like couple of years. So yeah, it took a lot of time to process, and that's all experience, really. I'm sure like next time when this happens, I'll be more aware of how to like compartmentalize all of this kind of stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, an intense feeling, but yeah, very, very positive in the end. So yeah, we're very happy.
Good, great. I just had to ask because how, I don't know, having a project like this, because it's not being an indie title, an indie game, I tend to think that the bigger publications don't tend to pay attention to them as well, which is why we like talking to people and reviewing them. But to see such high praise from everywhere, I'm like, I gotta ask, because we haven't had very many guests that have gotten such high praise before.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That's really nice.
Are you guys currently working on another project? Or are you soaking in what the release of Silt and the praise from Silt right now? Or do you have other stuff in the books for a project? You said you had 3 characters, and I'm interested. Sure, without not going too far into spoiler territory or whatever.
No, I would never. Nothing concrete, but I would say that my mind is always like churning ideas around, and I'm now just like painting for my own passion, and that's exactly how Silt started. So I'm hoping there'll be a point where I just come across a painting that is evokes the right theming and setting and all that for the next project. So
how is it
in touch?
Were you? So did you guys start working on Silt back in, you said 2018?
Yeah. We were
Okay.
both. I was actually working in film as a set painter. So I was only working part time. I was just having to like do that, then go to my studio and paint for as long as I could deal with. And
Okay.
John was a research scientist, so he was full time on that, and then doing the same thing like in his spare time. And that really happened for 2 years, like before we got fully funded. So, yeah, we started the project in 2018, but it was like official in late 2019, like early 2020, more or less.
Okay.
Was
I
when
was curious as far as you um, saying you're back to drawing out of passion, not out of work. How is that feeling for you? And is that something that you were able to do while creating Silt, or was your time into your artwork solely devoted to Silt itself?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, everything now is just like a passion project. So, yeah, I previously it was definitely I was trying to like juggle a few things, and now I feel like I've got a lot more like free time to be able to like really like think of ideas and like gestate those ideas properly, which is a lovely feeling. It's a very strange feeling. I keep feeling that I need to like do something else, but I can just paint at the moment, which is a lovely, lucky feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably like a nice weight off your shoulders, or you could just take a nice big breath and just work at your own leisure.
Yeah. I usually work really big as well, and I haven't been able to do that for many years. So at the moment, it's just like getting back into things like that, like doing big murals and like trying to like just kind of break the mold a little bit and do something different, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Nice.
And I actually meant to ask this earlier because you said you were really into comic books. We have a couple friends that do a comic book podcast. So are there any comic books you're reading right now, or any that people should be aware of? Because I just started getting into them myself, just started, but maybe you can recommend some to me as well.
Sure. I mean, I was more into comic books when I was younger, and now I've had a bit of a resurgence with it, which is a lovely feeling. I've been reading what's it called, the Inkle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's by Jodorowsky, I think. I might be wrong about that, but anyway, yeah, it's called the Inkle, and it's illustrated by Mobius, who you might have heard of. An incredible illustrator. And yeah, things like that, absolutely amazing. I'm actually rereading. I always forget the name of it. The Junji Ito book, Spiral Uzumaki, I think it's called Uzumaki. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but yeah, a bunch of things. I'm actually quite nostalgic with my tastes, and like rereading a lot of the older stuff that I loved in the past. But there's a lot of like 2000 ADs just like scattered around our house that I love picking up. Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice. I was just curious. I like I said, I just started getting into comics myself. And I was recommended something that is killing the children, and I just absolutely love it. Like, I just need more stuff like that, and so I will definitely look out for like the Inkle and stuff like that. So
yeah, there's a bunch of I think that's a series. There's loads of like comics in that kind of vein. So yeah, It's good stuff. Really,
awesome.
really good stuff.
Thank you.
Black. I just looked up there and I noticed Black Hole.
Black Hole. Okay.
Black Hole.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Like very, very dark. I don't really. It's either sci-fi or very dark is my choice.
Okay.
Choices.
Is there any advice that you would have for any aspiring artists that want to dip their feet into the world of video games?
So we did a career festival the other day, and we were talking about this. So yeah, 100%. My advice was for people to like draw in their own style, but try and be, if they're artists, like try and be as unique as you possibly can. Like do your own work. Like, as in, it's lovely to be able to draw like Disney, and I'm sure like people that can will get glittering careers, like working for bigger companies, and that's fine, 100%. But working for yourself and doing your own style is like second to none. I've done both, and I would definitely choose this than drawing in a style.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say it's your style in particular drew me to your game. So obviously, I'm sure you had your own inspirations, but your style is unique. Whereas
Thank you.
that is solid advice.
Thanks, man. Thanks very much. I mean, I'm saying, you know, I'm also saying that people can like find their style as well, and that is hard. Everyone has to have that moment where they don't know how they, you know, what they want to convey and what they want to draw. I had that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone has that. But once you find it, just run with it because it feels lovely.
Yeah. That's solid advice. Solid advice.
Thanks.
And I think that's really all we have, Tom, for today. Thank you for joining us, and we absolutely love Silt. So thank you for that creation of it, and also just we look forward to your next project, whatever it may be.
Yeah, stay in touch. I mean, yeah, like Game Circus on Twitter is pretty much where everything comes first, more or less. So yeah, that or the Spiral Circus Games website, just check us out, and yeah, stick with us, and there'll be another big, dark, weird project coming at some point.
We definitely look forward to it because that sounds incredible.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you, Tom.
Cheers, Kyle. Cheers, Karen. It's really nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you too.
Cool.
We